Good morning. My name's Don Mahoney, and I have this big overgrown garden here. It's sort of a mini forest, and a rather large plant collection of all kinds of stuff. But now that I'm retired, I'm home and I keep busy taking care of it. But I grow a lot of unusual things that nobody has seen much of, and I'm particularly interested in habitat. So I garden, I tell people, for birds and butterflies more than for myself, and bees. And so, but that works because in a garden this complex, that's organic, that I don't use any pesticides, if I didn't have all my insect friend helpers, I would not be able to manage it because of pest problems. As it is, I spend almost zero time worrying about pests, and all around there's constantly things buzzing and flying and going around. And so I garden with that in mind. So I always try and have some insect plants in all of my sunny little spots. And the garden is designed to have shafts of sunlight year-round in certain spots. So it looks, the garden is real overgrown, but it's not, because there are a lot of sunny little enclaves. And in each one of those spots I try and have nectar plants for insects. And so here I always, every summer, have a big basil plant. And the one called African Blue is the best in the form of that. And it's available around. I got that one at Andy Samuels. And the sun hits that spot much of the day. And there will be all kinds of bees on it all day long. So that's the pollinator part. But also, some of the best insect controllers, predators, are wasps, little bitty wasps, and they lay their eggs in aphids. I hardly ever see an aphid because I've got so many aphid predators around here. The adult little wasps, they lay their eggs on aphids, but the adult wasp itself needs nectar. And they particularly like little bitty flowers. They like things like a yarrow, flat heads. And so if you're out in the wild or anything, you see these little bitty things, almost like gnats, but they were not shaped quite like a gnat, flying around getting nectar. Almost always those are predatory wasps. Ooh. So that's a big class of insects that most gardens have very limited, if any, numbers of. There's one of those weird bees right up there, or the fly is right there on that flower. So I don't know if you can catch that, but that's,
oh, there it goes.
Some sort of a butterfly. It just showed up about a week ago, a swarm of them, like 20, 30, 40 of them. And they're all over my flowers. I never saw one all year, and suddenly they're all here.
Hey, Don, might we have a little walk around and take a look at your garden?
Yes, yes.
All right, let's follow the doctor.
Yeah, yeah. This is a Biden's from Mexico that little thing was on. And that's why that's here, is for insects to have something. I tend to have a lot of plants that are, there's another one of my cats. I have 4 cats and tons of birds, and they seem to get along, and the cats I've never caught them getting a bird. The habitat is so full and dense, the birds have plenty of places to hide. And they're well aware of the cats, and they just avoid the cats. Cool. And the cats are dead, so they don't even try. So the reason I've left this very large shrub, small tree, which is a hybrid Montanoa, the parents are from Mexico. It blooms in the fall into the winter, but most of it's out here in the sun, which is hard to photograph. But it's got lots of bees on it. There's lots of bees up in there. But the reason I let it take up so much space in my garden is for pollinators. So they have, so there is some organization to this garden, even though it looks pretty complex and crazy.
So it's overgrown, but for a purpose,
it's overgrown,
in a sense. And then you take it back down at some point.
Yes, and also it's pretty aesthetically pleasing for the most part.
It's beautiful.
And at this time of the year, there isn't a whole lot of nectar around for insects. A lot of the summer stuff is finished. In the spring, you need to plant for pollinators that you have something year round. You're not going to have, the only bee you're going to have year round is probably bumblebees and honeybees. But a lot of the native bees are only here for a month. Like this hoverfly thing, probably in 2 weeks it'll be gone, and it won't be here again until next October. So you need to have something in October for it. You need to have something in November. So the season starts in January with Ceanothus. Well, actually with manzanitas. Manzanitas can be in full bloom at Christmas, and they're perfect for winter flying bumblebees. They pollinate manzanitas. But then the Ceanothus starts, and the Ceanothus is just covered with bees the whole time it's blooming. And if you have, I've got about 4 or 5 different Ceanothus around, so I have Ceanothus flowers from, right now they're blooming. They often do a fall bloom, but then they're at their prime in January through March or April. And so I don't have to worry about nectar and stuff for those months because I've got Ceanothus. And Ceanothus are just incredible for pollinators. Then in the spring, there's generally lots of flowers around. There's all kinds of things. The wildflowers, California poppies and meadow foam and all those things attract a lot of pollinators. And that season, and there's all the neighborhood flowers are around. It's not as bad. In the summertime, it starts slowing down again for pollinators. That's when our native buckwheats kick in. And my best summer nectar is native buckwheats. And then they'll last July, August, and then September, asters start in, and I have a big patch of asters, and I'll literally see several hundred bees on my aster patch every day, and some butterflies, but not like I used to. I used to be able to see 10 species of butterflies in a day on my asters. Now I'm lucky to see 5, because butterflies are disappearing from urban areas. Bees are still pretty okay. They're not going down like the butterflies are. But anyway, so then you get asters, and then when the asters have just finished, this Montanoa thing starts in. So now I have this Montanoa, and then by the time the Montanoa is done, it's almost time for the Ceanothus to be kicking in. So you have stuff for, and you just don't have honeybees and bumblebees. You get all kinds. The most I've counted in one day here is 11 different species of bees and wasps. And I try not to count flies unless they're a big hoverfly or something.
So Don, you're actively tracking the food supply and growing the food supply for all these beneficial insects. That's part of it.
That's part of it. And a lot of the wasps, and like 95% of our native bees, lay their eggs on other insects. Or other insects' larvae. Like that, there's a black wasp that I see that flitters on the ground and it crawls around, and it's just this blue-black little wasp. It's searching for spiders. And it'll find a spider, kill it. It has a hole already dug. It pushes the spider down the hole, dead, lays an egg on top of it, and then covers it up.
Oh, that's those pompilids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. But many of our native bees do that, so the bees aren't just pollinating, they can be predators on insects you don't want. Although I want the spiders, but there's plenty of spiders around. For a pair of, say, chickadees to raise a nest of baby chickadees, it takes 4,000 insects over the course of the 3 weeks, the 4 weeks it takes to raise those chickadees up. Because they're coming every 5 minutes with the insect or 2 in their mouth all day long. So that takes a big habitat to have all of these insects for bird food. So that's going on as another overlay at this same time. And they eat some of these bees even. And then I get these beautiful spider webs. This year they're not, some years it's just spider webs everywhere. This year there's hardly any spider webs. I'm not sure if I seem to have more chickadees and titmice. Maybe they're getting them. But then the bees fly into the spider webs, and you see all the spider come running out and killing off this bee. So it is a web of life. It's a
the cycle of life.
And so to get total pest control, which I pretty much have, you got to have the whole web of life active and going on. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years to develop it. This garden's been it's 24 years old when I started planting. 24 years ago I started planting this. So, but I had really good insect stuff within 5 years. But every year it gets better and more kinds of insects and more diversity. It's not maintenance free, and you got to know what you're doing, and you got to keep dead stuff pruned back. I mean, dead bushes are not very good habitat, and they're not out in the wild. They're not good for fire, and so not only when they kind of clear some of this underbrush does it prevent fires, it also helps open up the ecosystem for other insects and stuff. As long as they don't kill off young green shrubs and make it like clear cut under the forest, that's not good at all. But also a forest full of dead shrubs underneath that died because the trees came up and whatever. That's not very healthy for an ecosystem either. So the Indians had it right when they burnt all the time, and little pieces here and little pieces there, and had little openings under the trees and left, you know. And they cut off they burnt off all the shrubs that they wanted to make their baskets with. So all the new shoots would be up strong and just the perfect size to make baskets with. So you have to really maintain this garden. It just doesn't. If I just didn't do anything, it wouldn't be as attractive. I do.
It's a staggered but intense management, all the same.
Yes. It looks wild and unkempt, but it's not. So. Anyway, see, there's a ceanothus that's coming into bloom, and it's got a lot of bees on it. And there's even bees on my mellow stuff. On a plant basis, I'm trying to propagate and save and grow unusual things that aren't in the trade and are in danger of being lost to horticulture. But they're really good horticulture plants, like all these various species of cufeas. They're great plants for the garden. But you go to a nursery and try and find a cufea, or cufea, you're hard-pressed. Annie's annuals may have 3 or 4, but no other nurseries. Well, they do have the little scar plant at Home Depot now and then. But there's 12 or 15 really neat species of cufeas, like this one right here, micropetala.
So in the garden, then these will be blooming at different times, different colors,
times, and they'd be mostly for hummingbirds.
Don, would you mention again about how it's such a, to me, it's such a disarray of plants. They're all different kinds. Why wouldn't you put all the same plants all in the same place? For easy organization, per se.
Yeah. And easy for the bugs to find. So the monocultures are the bane of existence for people trying to control bugs, because if a bug comes in and likes the first row of something, then they can spread to all the other rows within weeks or days even. And so when things are mixed up like they are more in nature, a bug comes that likes cufea. He finds one cufea. Well, they're not gonna find the other cufeas right off, because they're hidden behind some other things that the bug may find as are repellents. Because some plants are repellent to. A lot of plants have special repellent things for some bugs, but not all bugs. So you mix all these things together, and you get a lot better bug control.
So that's like that thing people talk about, companion planting and this and that.
Yes,
It's like everybody's friends, and they help each other out.
Yep. Yep. So, and besides, I'd be kind of bored if I had all my salvias in one spot. And you do see big drifts in nature. You see hillsides full of one ceanothus. You go up Mount Diablo, but if you go to the slope of Mount Diablo, which is almost solid sage, our local sagebrush, like every 5 or 10 feet, there's another shrub, other kinds of shrubs. Oh, it's the puppy dog. Cherry.
It's okay. It's all right. Come on. Go with Papa.
Come on.
Go with Papa. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, buddy.
My God.
It's okay.
No, he's not going to hurt me.